Namaste, Saraswate, Namaste,
Rama. She's getting the lyrics in Gorga Bhakti Richard. Okay, so I follow it. If you have, you can open lyrics on your board. शोल्डर है माइक नहीं है
Rama Rama Rameti. Rama Rama Rameti. Sri Rama. Go ahead. I don't sing it. Go ahead. Sri Rama Rama Rameti. Rame Rame. Satyam. Rama Rama. Sri Rama Rameti. Rame Rame Manokti. Sahasranam Satyam. Rama Rama. Sri Rama Rama Rameti. Rame Rame Manokti. Sahasranam Satyam. Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
उधर डालने दीजिए। हरे राम
Come, Haribo. Where is she? Come, come.
ये आपको ये साउंड डिस्प्ले करना है नहीं मतलब एटलीस्ट इनको तो सुनाई देना चाहिए ना तो माइक लगाना
Namaskaram and good evening to all. We will now present a Pushpanjali, seeking blessings from the Almighty, our Lady, and all elders present here. Yeah. Now you start.
ओ यहाँ पे देखिए कभी देखिए एक सेकंड इसको रूम में तो जाना चाहिए पता नहीं मम्मी ने बताने को साउंड सिस्टम
Now, Kumari Ashra will be presenting a Rama Param showing Shabari Mosha in Ravam Kadana Guru Kala set to Aditara. Kumari Sharda will now present to you Adiko Barudi Hani. Adiko Barudi Hani is a beautiful padam in which the Sita Swayamvaram is purely shown from the Sita tower. This padam is in Raga Malika set to Adi Tal. This will be followed by the Mangalam.
Sita Swayamvaram. Sita Swayamvaram. Yeah. Huh? Right. Next time. Please. Maybe I'll just take 1 minute time to introduce.
Should I start Jayaram after the Jayaram?
Just introduce you. I'm supposed to introduce the mic. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thank you very much for coming for this wonderful round. One small request, can everybody come forward as much as possible? There is some incoming crowd. It will be good for the more space for the people who come here. So how are you liking this program till now? You heard the vibration of the holy names. You heard now Ramayana. You saw the wonderful expression of devotional sentiments, music, dance, etc. Are you liking it? It's a very low Haripur. If you like, say me. Now, as we know that in any program, on in all the centers, the most important aspect is we want to hear. We want to hear, and then we want to get absorbed in what we hear, and then end it with nice knowledge. So today we are very, very fortunate to have amongst ourselves a very, very the deal whose kind can he be taken out. Sorry, sir. Yeah. So today we are very fortunate to have amongst ourselves in this Vamsi Vadan Prabhu. He's a very, very dear person to all of us, especially those who are staying and studying under him in his ISKCON layout. His case, Vamsi Vadan Prabhu is studied his MBBS from Pune University, and he was introduced to Krishna consciousness in 1996. And then he decided he dedicated his life for the service to the Prabhupada in 1999. He has been serving in various capacities, starting from youth college training programs to prophetic programs, and presently he is the dean of Bhakti Vedanta Raj Vidyalaya. He travels all around and teaches, likes to teach everybody the books of Srila Prabhupada. I've been studying under him from the last 3 years. And my ability to read Srila Prabhupada's books, meditate on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, my understanding of Srila Prabhupada as the founder, Acharya of ISKCON, the principle, has become very strong under his guidance. It is our great fortune that he is here today on the day of Sri Navami. If I have to introduce him in one line, I would like to say that he is a true representative of His Divine Majesty of Swami Prabhupada. So I will request all of you to settle down, please, and try to hear with maximum possible attention. Whatever we are going to hear in the next in the next few minutes or some time, it will actually help us in our Krishna consciousness, and it will help us to actually welcome Lord Ram in the core of our hearts. Let's welcome His great Vamsi Vadan Prabhu for taking our time and come here by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra from the core of our hearts. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We want to hear from you, and we want to become more dependable servants of Srila Prabhupada. So please help us. Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Volume condition. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Vandana Yashoda Yamuna Tira Vandana Jaya Ram Gopi Jana Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodananda Braja Jana Vandana Yashodananda Yashodananda Braja Jana Yamuna Tira Vandana Jaya Ram Kunja Bihari Jaya Ram Kunja Bihari Jaya Ram Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada नाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरद्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. So we welcome all of you to this wonderful Ram Navami celebrations. So this is a very auspicious day of the appearance of Lord Ramchandra. So in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, he says, Rama dimurti shukala niyamena tishtan nanavataram akarot bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat parama pumanyo govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So Lord Brahma is praying that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, he expands himself into so many different avatars like Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, so many different avatars. The Lord expands himself and he comes to perform different pastimes for different purposes. He comes into this, he descends into this world. So as in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, the Lord himself says, Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So the Lord comes to for delivering the pious, for annihilating the miscreants, and to re-establish the principles of religion. The Lord comes in every yuga. So this is the purpose for the Lord's descent. And whenever he comes into this world, he has certain specific purposes which he accomplishes. And so we find as Lord Ramchandra comes as a very ideal personality, Maryada Purushottam. So Lord Ramchandra, when he comes, he shows how to be an ideal husband, ideal son, ideal king, ideal in all respects. That is what Lord Ramchandra shows through his behavior. And so therefore, we can learn many wonderful lessons from the Ramayana to imbibe within our own lives. And especially on the occasion of Ram Navami, as His Grace Achyuta Arjun Sagar Prabhu said, that we have to learn how to welcome Lord Ramchandra within our own hearts. So how many of us want to welcome Lord Ramchandra into our hearts? Please raise hands. So that is what we will try and understand. how we can welcome Lord Ramchandra into our hearts and how we can get his mercy, get his kripa, by which we can be delivered from this material world full of so many miseries and enter into the spiritual worlds. So we find that Lord Ramchandra, he came at a time when there were a number of demoniac forces who were creating havoc in this world. So there was the great demon king Ravan, who had become extremely powerful due to the benedictions which he got from Lord Shiva. And so once Ravan, very, very powerful, extremely powerful person, he was flying in the sky. And as he was flying in the sky, he saw that there was a very effulgent lady who was in a yogic posture. She was meditating. And as Ravan, he saw this lady, he was very much attracted. And it is the nature of demoniac people to think that everything is meant for my enjoyment. Nothing in this world belongs to us. Does anything of this world belong to us? If you say that something belongs to us, then we should be able to carry it with us at all times. But how do we come into this world? Do we come with a few lakhs of rupees or some gold? With what do we come into this world? Nothing. Empty hands, correct? And we're going to leave this world also with empty hands. Therefore, it is said that even Alexander the Great, after he conquered so many vast areas of the world, when he was going to die, it is said that he said, "You place my two hands open to show to the world that even though he had conquered vast territories, but still now, as he was leaving the world, he was going with nothing." So therefore, nothing of this world belongs to us. We may accumulate so many things of this world, but definitely 100% at the time of death, one has to give up everything. And therefore, the Sri Ishopanishad is saying, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Jagat. The entire Jagat, the entire universe actually belongs to Krishna. And therefore, Tena Taktena Bunjita Magrida Kasisviddanam. Therefore, one has to accept only what is one's quota, what is given to one in one's lifetime, and not be greedy to accumulate more and more, especially by illegal means, because it is going to be 100% taken away. But if we try to accumulate things by illegal means, then not only everything will be taken away, but we carry a lot of bad reactions, bad karma with us, for which we'll have to face so many difficulties, so many sufferings in the future. So here there is Ravan, extremely powerful. He's flying in the sky. He sees this beautiful lady and he thinks this lady is meant for my enjoyment. And so he comes down and he inquires as to who she was. And then she says that she is Vedavati. So Ravan asks, why are you performing this severe meditation? What is your purpose? She says she's performing meditation since many, many years, since many lives, for attaining the Supreme Lord Vishnu as her husband. Ultimately, everyone's husband is the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, it is the Supreme Lord who maintains everyone. So she was performing these austerities to obtain the Supreme Lord as her husband. But then Ravan, who was filled with so much of lust and greed, he wanted to have Vedavati for himself to enjoy. And so Ravan, unable to withstand himself, he tries to grab her hair. And as he grabs her hair, Vedavati, by her yogic powers, she takes her hand and cuts off her hair. The hand acted like a sword. That is the power of Ashtanga Yoga. That is the power of mystic yoga. Not like, unlike so many Ashtanga Yoga societies that we may have over here, who can hardly get any power to do anything. But this is the power of yoga, that Vedavati, she became so powerful that her hand acted like a sword. She cut off her hair on the spot. And she told Ravana, because you have touched me, therefore this body is not worth living. I will give up this body, but I will appear once again and be the cause of your death. And that's how Vedavati, by her yogic power, she increased the fire element of her body. The body burst into flames and she gave up the body. Ravana, hearing this, he was terrified. But then the nature of this world is one forgets. And one thinks, so what? I'm a powerful person. We'll see what will happen. So Ravana went away and then he continued his atrocious activities. So much so that the Devatas in heaven, they were disturbed by all the atrocities of Ravan. And so they began to pray for the Supreme Lord to descend into this world to put an end to these demoniac forces. As a result of these prayers of the Devatas, the Supreme Lord, along with his various expansions, decided to descend into this world. And so therefore, the four important incarnations of the Supreme Lord, Vasudev, Pradyumna, Anirudh, and Shankarshan, four of them descended into this world. And as we know, at that point of time, Maharaj Dasharath, he was in dire need to have progeny, to have sons, to continue on his dynasty. And therefore, he performed a sacrifice, and from the sacrifice, the celestial personality came with some kheer, sweet rice, which Maharaj Dasharath distributed to his queens. And then from his queens, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra, were born these four boys: Ramchandra, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. These were the incarnations of Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And as they grew up, they became extremely powerful Kshatriyas, extremely powerful warriors. They learned all the arts of fighting and all the other Kshatriya arts and skills. They learned very quickly and became extremely powerful. Now, we would like to focus the Ramayana. Of course, most of you may know many parts of the Ramayana and may be well versed in the story. Yet we would like to focus on certain parts of the Ramayana which highlight the important aspect of how we can attract the mercy of Lord Ramchandra. Because ultimately that is the goal of this human form of life. The goal of the human form of life is to attract the mercy of the Supreme Lord by which our hearts may be transformed. In the current situation, since time immemorial, we have been harboring so many different anarthas within our hearts: Kam, Krodh, Lodh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. As a result of these various anarthas within our heart, we are suffering in this material world. And so therefore, as long as these anarthas are there within our heart, it is very difficult to find happiness. But everyone in this world is searching for happiness. Is that correct? Is there anyone over here who goes to any temple and prays, "My dear Lord, in my life, I've had so much of happiness. Please give me a little distress"? Anyone goes and prays like that? Please raise hands. So no one goes and prays for distress. Everyone wants what? Happiness. But then one has to know how one can get happiness in life. So that true happiness can only be found by establishing our relationship with the source of all happiness. The source of all happiness is the Supreme Lord, Sita Ram. Ram means the source of pleasure. And so therefore, by establishing our relationship with Lord Ramachandra, we can actually be happy in life. So therefore, we have to somehow attract the grace, attract the mercy of Lord Ramachandra, by which we can actually be happy. In the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There is Krishna, Hare and Ram. There are these three words in this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So once some disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they asked Srila Prabhupada, this Ram in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, whom does it represent? So does it represent Balaram? Or does it represent Lord Ramachandra? So Srila Prabhupada replied that this word Ram in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra could indicate any of the three Rams. Who are the three Rams? One is Balaram, then there's Lord Ram, Dashrathi Nandan, Ramachandra, and the third Ram is Parshuram. So it could indicate any of the three Rams. But then Ram means the source of all pleasure. And therefore, by establishing our relationship with Lord Ramachandra, that's how we can actually become happy in life. And therefore, the main purpose of understanding the Ramayana is to understand how we can attract the grace, how we can attract the mercy of Lord Ramachandra by following in his footsteps. Now, the mission for which Lord Ramachandra came into this world was to put an end to the demoniac forces like Ravana and bring relief to the devotees. So therefore, the Devatas orchestrated a means, a plan by which this could be done. And they did that by inspiring the chief maidservant of Kaikeyi. Who's that? Manthara. So, as we know, Dashrath, who the astrologers said that there's something inauspicious that's going to happen. So Dashrath Maharaj thought, maybe I'll die very soon. So therefore, with the consultation of the Brahmanas, and because all the citizens of Ayodhya, they loved Lord Ram so much, they were very eager to see Lord Ram coronated as the next king, the prince regent. And Dashrath Maharaj, he announced that the next day would be the coronation of Lord Ram. And the entire Ayodhya was so happy. Everyone was so happy. Except for one person. Who was that? Manthara. So, Manthara's problem was that if Lord Ram becomes the king, Kaushalya will become the chief queen. Then who will bother about Kaikeyi? And if Kaikeyi is not given importance, I being her maidservant, what will be my importance? So she was thinking about herself. She actually was not considering the happiness of Kaikeyi. She was considering whose happiness? Her own happiness. She was simply selfish about her own happiness. A very important lesson. As long as one is selfishly thinking about one's own happiness, one cannot really be happy. Real happiness comes only on the selfless platform. As long as to the degree one is thinking, how can I be happy? It is very difficult to find happiness. Because the nature of the soul is to serve. Everyone in this world is serving someone. Agreed? Is there anyone over here who can confidently say, in my life I don't serve anyone? Anyone here? Kindly raise hands. Anyone here who says, I don't serve anyone? Of course, when Srila Prabhupada was giving lectures in the West, he would very often say, even if somebody says, I'm not serving anyone, at least he'll keep a dog and serve. Maybe Indians will say, no, we don't keep dogs. I don't know what's the culture in Bangalore these days. I think in Bangalore, many people keep dogs these days, correct? The Western culture coming here. But okay, even if one says, I don't even keep a dog, I don't serve anyone, still the person is serving someone. Who's that? One's own mind and senses. The nature of the soul is to serve. Therefore, no one can be without service. But as long as one is trying to selfishly serve one's own mind and senses, one can never be happy. To the degree one becomes selfless, to the degree one serves others, to that degree one can be happy. But then the ultimate service that we can render is to the Supreme Lord, who is the source of all happiness. So, Manthara was thinking about her own happiness. And then, as we know, she called Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was so happy that Ram is going to be coronated as king. And Manthara, she went and told Kaikeyi, did you hear the news? Kaikeyi said, what news? Yes, it's a very wonderful news that Lord Ram is going to be coronated as the king. Manthara said, do you think that is happy news? Kaikeyi said, it is the happiest news of my life. And she took a golden necklace from her neck and gave it to Manthara. Manthara threw it on the ground and said, you are stupid lady, you don't understand. You're so foolish. You are not understanding the impending disaster in your life. Kaikeyi was taken aback. Disaster? What disaster are you talking about? Lord Ram. He is the favorite of everyone in Ayodhya. He considers me like his own mother. What wrong can be there? And then Manthara began to tell her Just think about it. Think about it. Think about the plan. Why do you think Bharat has been sent away? This is a conspiracy against you. The conspiracy is that when Bharat is away, Kaushalya and Dashrath Maharaj, they want to appoint Ram as the king. And you are not understanding what will be your situation. You will simply become a maidservant of the queen. Wake up to the reality. Kaikeyi started taking her words very seriously. This is the power of association. By association, the mind changes. Therefore, as the English saying goes, one becomes what one associates with. So, we have a choice. We could associate with materialistic people who have materialistic goals, who want to simply increase their lust and anger and pride, or we can come here and associate with saintly persons and bring about a positive transformation in our lives so that we can actually become happy. The choice is ours. Everything depends upon association. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, if you want to become a first-class drunkard, what you have to do? Very simple. You simply associate with some other drunkards, one will become a first-class drunkard. Similarly, whatever is our goal, if we associate with similar-minded people, we take on their qualities. Therefore, we find people, they form different associations of like-minded people to get an impetus and inspiration to progress in their respective fields. Correct? Just like engineers form their association, doctors form their association, there's Indian Medical Association, and different sects of people form their associations. I'm sure there must be some Kannada association, or the Odia people, they have their association. What are the associations you have here in Bangalore? We find different people of common goals. They come together and form their associations so that people can progress in their respective fields because they know that by association they can make progress in their respective fields. Similarly, if one wants to become happy in life, then one needs to associate with people who are actually happy, not people who are simply putting up plastic smiles. And those who are actually happy are those who establish their relationship with Lord Ram. And especially in this age, the easiest way to establish one's relationship with Lord Ram is by the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by the very, very powerful words of mantra, Kaikeyi's mind changed. And she began to think, oh, this seems to be a real plot against me. And then we know what she did. Then she went into the sulking chambers. Maharaj Dashrath came there. And then she demanded her two boons. Make Bharat Maharaj the king and banish Lord Ramchandra into the forest for 14 years. Now, just think about it. Lord Ramchandra, he was going to be the king the next day. But the next day, of course, Maharaj Dashrath was in a state of total shock. He could not even inform Ram about what is to be done. Kaikeyi calls Ram and Kaikeyi tells him, this is what your father wants you to do. He wants you to go to the forest for 14 years. what was the response of Lord Ramachandra? Was he disappointed? Was he angry? Was he frustrated? Did he go into depression? Did he call for a psychiatrist? No, nothing of that sort. It made absolutely no difference to him. He was ready on the spot. He was just ready to obey his father's instructions, to fulfill his father's desires. How many children these days can be so obedient? Very difficult. But this is what Lord Ramachandra is teaching, the principle of obedience. As Srila Prabhupada said, obedience is the first law of discipline. In any field, if one wants to progress, some discipline is required. Just like we see in the army men, they maintain discipline, right? They maintain discipline every day, getting up early in the morning, their training program. They have a discipline because they know only by that discipline they'll be able to fight with their enemy. Without that discipline, it is not possible. And so therefore, we find that here Lord Ramchandra is teaching that principle of obedience. And that obedience to the parents, obedience to the spiritual master, ultimately obedience to the Supreme Lord is what pleases the Supreme Lord. And Lord Ramachandra is showing that through his own example. Without a second thought, Lord Ramachandra agrees to go. And then we find that how Lakshman and Mother Sita follow. Mother Sita, even though Lord Ramachandra tries to convince her, how can you live in the forest? You are accustomed to staying in palaces with so much of opulence. How can you stay in the forest where you'll have to simply lie down on the hard ground, where there'll be snakes and scorpions and mosquitoes? How can you live in the forest? But Mother Sita, she says, at the time of marriage, my father, Janak Maharaj, he told me that now for the rest of your life, you simply serve Lord Ram in whatever condition he may be in. Therefore, please allow me to maintain that promise which I gave to my father. So we see how Mother Sita was dutiful to her promise. The Ramayana teaches this very, very important principle of being dutiful, being duty-bound in whatever situation one may be in, whether one may be a father, a husband, a wife, a son, a king. In whatever situation one may be in, one needs to be dutiful. And that is exactly what Lord Krishna also teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, we find Arjuna, he wanted to renounce his duty as a Kshatriya. He wanted to renounce his duty of fighting. But what did Lord Krishna tell him? What was the ultimate message of the Bhagavad Gita? The ultimate message of the Bhagavad Gita was to inspire Arjuna to perform his duty as a Kshatriya, to fight on the battlefield, even though it may be difficult. So in the performance of duty may not always be a bed of roses. There may be difficulties, there may be challenges in the performance of duties. But still, Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Matra sparshas tu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama apayano nityas Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. In the performance of duty, there may be challenges and difficulties, but then all these difficulties are temporary, just like the coming and going of the summer and the winter seasons. So just like now there is a summer season, we may be feeling some heat, but yet in spite of that, in spite of some inconvenience, all of you have agreed to sit over here, agreed to take part in this program, because I'm sure all of you are very eager to receive the mercy of Lord Ram, right? So you have agreed to take on the austerity because we know that some austerity is required to achieve success. In the performance of duty, there may be difficulties, but still one continues on. That is what the Ramayana is teaching. Lord Ram had so many difficulties. Mother Sita had so many difficulties. And what to speak of Lakshman? Now, at least between husband and wife, there are some vows. But are there vows between brothers? Lakshman was in no way bound to go with Lord Ram to the forest. But still, Lakshman, he thought, how can I live without Ram? It is my duty to serve him. And so therefore we find that Lakshman, he accompanies Ram and Sita to the forest. And his only duty was how to serve Ram and Sita, how to protect them. And it said that for 14 years, Lakshman never slept because he was always on guard. How many of us can be without sleeping even for one day? One day we don't sleep, what will happen? Person goes crazy. Just imagine 14 years, Lakshman didn't sleep at all. That's how he was duty bound. He was feeling it was his duty. And what to speak of Bharat? Now, what Bharat had to go through was something very heart-touching. When Ram, Sita, and Lakshman go to the forest, Dashrath Maharaj, he could not bear the separation of Lord Ram. And Dashrath Maharaj passes away from this world. And at that time, Vasishtha Muni, who was the guru of the entire Ayodhya, he says, Ayodhya is without a king. We must call Bharat. So they send messengers to call Bharat and Shatrughna without telling him exactly what happened. They were just called. So Bharat starts coming. He comes, he enters into Ayodhya. When he enters into Ayodhya, he sees everyone in Ayodhya seems to be lamenting. He tries to ask some people, what has happened? Nobody is ready to speak with him. He's surprised. And then he comes into the palace of his mother. And Kaikeyi, of course, is very happy to see Bharat back. And then she tells Bharat that just see what I have done for you. For your sake, I have banished Ram into the forest for 14 years. Now, and Dashrath is dead. Now you are the unrivaled king of the entire universe. She was very proud of what she did. But Bharat, he could not stand it. He was disgusted. And then he went to Kaushalya. When Kaushalya saw him, she was, of course, in a state of lamentation. But she told Bharat, Bharat, your mother has expertly executed your plan. It was your plan to be the king of Ayodhya, and your mother has perfectly executed it. Hearing this, Bharat was heartbroken. He tried to explain to Kaushalya that he did not know anything about it. He had no plan whatsoever to be the king of Ayodhya. Then there was Vishwamitra Muni. He met Vishwamitra and Vashishta. And Vashishta said the same thing. His spiritual master Vashishta, he said the same thing. He said, Bharat, it was your plan to be the king. Now your mother has perfectly executed your plan. Just see how Bharat was misunderstood. And later on, when Bharat, he decides to go to the forest and get Ram back, as Bharat is going into the forest, there is Maharaj Guha. He thinks that Bharat is going into the forest to kill Ram so that Ram does not interfere with his kingship. As he goes further into the forest, he meets Bharadwaj Muni. And Bharadwaj Muni also says, oh, so you're coming into the forest to kill Ram so that you can become the king forever. Just see how Bharat was misunderstood by one and all. And then we know finally he meets Lord Ram in the forest, and that conversation between Ram and Bharat is something which is very heart-touching. In fact, it is said, how many of you have been to Chitrakoot? Only 2 or 3 people. So it is said that in Chitrakoot, so Chitrakoot is a very, very beautiful forest, and for the devotees of Lord Ram, Chitrakoot is like the Vrindavan for Krishna devotees, because in Chitrakoot, Ram and Sita have the most. So just like Vrindavan is a very simple place, so Chitrakoot also is a very simple, beautiful forest, just like Vrindavan. And Ram and Sita were leading very, very simple lives. And so it is said in Chitrakoot, where Bharat and Ram met, such was their love, such was the love between these two brothers, that the stones on which they were standing melted. And those impressions are still there in Chitrakoot. So, after this meeting, which was so heart-touching, heart-melting, because of that intense love between Bharat and Ram. And even though Bharat tried to convince Ram to come back to Ayodhya and become the king, Ram said, no, it is my vow to remain in the forest for 14 years, and I have to keep that vow. And then we know Bharat, he takes Lord Ram's padukas and comes back to Ayodhya. We find sometimes, not sometimes, so many times these days, brothers fight to get property. Brothers fight to get posts and positions. Each one is trying to capture more property, more posts and positions. But here we find between Ram and Bharat, a relationship of true brotherhood, a relationship of true love, where each one is trying to inspire the other to actually take up the post and position, to actually become the king. There was not a tinge of selfishness. This is true love. True love means one is simply thinking about the welfare of the other person, of the object of love. One is not thinking about oneself. That is spiritual relationship. Unlike all relationships of the material worlds, where even though people claim to have love, there is no true love because each one is thinking of one's own selfish sense gratification. But true spiritual love is where one is thinking about the benefit of the other person, how to serve the other person, how can I benefit the other person? That is true love. So we find that true love in the spiritual relationships that we find in the Ramayana between Ram and Sita, between Bharat and Ram, we find this true spiritual love. And so we find Bharat, even though he comes back to Ayodhya, does he relish being the king? No. He does not want any of the facilities as the king. Rather, we know he stays simply in a hermit. He thinks, because Ram is staying in a hermit, I cannot stay in a better place. And therefore, simply on the outskirts of Ayodhya in Nandagram, he builds a cottage and stays like a hermit. And whom does he place on the throne? Yes, the Padukas of Lord Rama. He never sits on the throne. In fact, he thought, Ram is sleeping on the ground. I must sleep below the ground. So he actually was sleeping in a trench. He dug a trench below the ground and he was sleeping there. That was his loyalty. That was his love. That was his dedication to Lord Rama. The important lesson again we learn from Bharat is how one is interested in duty, even though there may not be facilities. Bharat was not interested in the facilities as a king. He was more interested in performing his duty as a king. Facilities may or may not be there, but what is more important is the performance of duty. And that is the important lesson that we learn from the Ramayana, the performance of duty at all costs. Later on, we see another very important personality of the Ramayana who performed his duty and gave up his very life. And we see how when Ravana was taking Mother Sita through the skies, there was the king of vultures, Jatayu, who was very old at that time. And he knew 100% there was no chance of winning in a battle against Ravan. But yet, duty. He was thinking about his duty. How can I allow Ravan to take Sita away? I have to perform my duty of giving a fight. And so he fought. And Ravan was so powerful. With a sword, he cut off the wings of Jatayu and totally injured him. And Jatayu was about to die. He lost the battle. Was he a failure? Why was he not a failure? Because Lord Ramchandra himself came, placing Jatayu's head on his lap. Lord Ramachandra personally sent Jatayu back to the spiritual worlds, the ultimate success of life. Many times we are very much interested in the results, in the outcome of what we do. Results may or may not be there from an apparent material level. But then the ultimate results, the ultimate success is, have we pleased the Lord or not? That is the ultimate success. From a material viewpoint, one may have succeeded or failed. But the ultimate success is, have we pleased the Supreme Lord? And if we have succeeded in pleasing the Supreme Lord, then that is our ultimate success. And so we find that by the performance of duty, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the difficulties, whether there is victory or loss in any circumstance, when one performs the duty, then that duty is what pleases the Supreme Lord, and that is the ultimate success. Another important personality of the Ramayana who performed his duty in spite of so many challenges was Hanuman. So many challenges. As he was flying across the ocean to find Mother Sita, there were so many obstacles. There were Rakshasas and Rakshasis who were trying to allure him, drag him. But he never fell a prey to any one of them. Using his sharp intelligence, he crossed over all those obstacles. He did his duty of giving the message to Mother Sita, and he came back. Lord Ramchandra, he felt so obliged to him, felt so grateful to him. In fact, he said, I cannot repay you for what you have done. The only thing I can give you is my embrace. So, throughout the Ramayana, we find through the lives of all these personalities, including the Supreme Lord, Lord Ramchandra himself, how one needs to perform one's duty at all costs. And the ultimate duty as human beings, as spirit souls, is to fulfill our duties towards the Supreme Lord. Because ultimately, every living entity is Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Every living entity is simply a servant of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it is the duty of every living entity to serve the Supreme Lord. By serving the Supreme Lord, who is the source of all happiness, who is the treasure house of all happiness, by serving him, one can actually be happy in life. And so, we are all searching for happiness. We are all very eager to get happiness. But the best way to achieve that happiness is by re-establishing our connection with the source of all happiness, and that is Lord Sri Ramchandra. And so therefore, on this very holy, auspicious day of Navami, we can try to meditate and we can try to endeavor to increase our dedication, to increase our bondage, to increase our servitorship to the Supreme Lord, Lord Ramchandra. And in this age of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord himself has come as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and has given us this very simple process of chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By the simple methods of chanting the holy names and avoiding sinful activities, we can perform our duties as human beings and try to establish our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And especially in the modern age, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, as the messenger of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he traveled all over the world 14 times in the old age of 70 years to spread this chanting of the holy names. and giving this message of how we can re-establish our relationship with the Supreme Lord and actually become happy. So, I would like to end with this one beautiful, you can say, understanding about what Srila Prabhupada has given us. This I heard from one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Shankar Shandas Adhikari Prabhu. So he was saying that in order to really understand, really develop our love towards the Supreme Lord, we need to have eyes which are anointed with the salve of love. As the Brahma Samhita says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. If we really want to see Lord Shri Krishna, if we really want to see Lord Shri Ramachandra, then we need to develop these eyes of love. Srila Prabhupada, in his younger days, he was staying at Allahabad and he had a pharmacy, Prayag Pharmacy. And there, definitely, he may have been selling many ointments. But now, after opening ISKCON, he is still acting as a pharmacist and he's still selling ointments. But now he's selling a very special ointment. How many of you would like to have this ointment that Srila Prabhupada is selling? And that too free of cost. How many would like to have? Yes, we can all definitely have this special ointment of love that Srila Prabhupada is now giving to the whole world. And Srila Prabhupada is ready to give it free of cost, no cost. Freely he's distributing. The only thing that is required is one needs to have faith and acceptance. Then one can get this ointment of love. We simply need to please Srila Prabhupada. By pleasing Srila Prabhupada, by following the simple instructions that he gave us to chant at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, follow the regulative principles, come to these ISKCON centers, associate with the devotees, read Srila Prabhupada's books, chant the holy names, dance in kirtans, and one activity which we all definitely love to do, and that is honoring Krishna Prasadam. By these simple activities, Srila Prabhupada will be most pleased to give us the salve of love by which we can actually get darshan of Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Shri Ramchandra, face to face, and ultimately enjoy true happiness in the spiritual world by eternally chanting the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagwan Shri Ramchandra ki, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Ram Navami Maha Mahotsav ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Go Premanande. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, does anybody have any questions? You can have any questions, you can have. So just one concern, keep the questions relevant to the question of your.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you mentioned that Ravana, he had touched the Vedavati, and Vedavati had told that she would again take a reincarnation. But during the lecture, he did not mention how she was reincarnated.
Okay, so we didn't mention because there was no time. So basically, when Mother Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, so Ravan, a materialistic demoniac person, could not touch the spiritual form of Mother Sita. So Ravana did not take the actual Sita, the spiritual Sita. But at that time, Vedavati came in the place of Sita, and whom Ravana took. Ravana did not take the real spiritual Sita, but Ravana actually took Vedavati. And so it was Vedavati who remained with Ravan. And then when Sita came back, then actually when the Agni Pariksha was done, so at that time, Vedavati went back into the fire and the real Sita came. So that's how she became the cause of Ravana's destruction. Because Ravana actually kidnapped Vedavati.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions anymore?
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Let's once again thank the next Bhakti Prabhu, taking our time, helping us understand so many teachings from the pastimes of Lord Ram, Bharat, Lakshmana, Shatrughna, and also various other. I would just like to share some points which, for my own purification and for the reflection of everybody. So we started with that Vedavati pastime. He enlightened us about the importance of being fully dedicated to one's purpose, and he also talked about the problems which one gets by performing Ashtanga Yoga. He taught us about how Vasudeva, Sankarshan, and everything that became as Ram, Lakshmana, Bharat, Shatrughna. My takeaway from today's session is real happiness comes only on the platform of selfless service to God. And the nature of the soul is to keep serving. Until we serve God, we can never become happy. If we keep serving ourselves, we will always be puzzled. So the obedience is the most important aspect in spiritual life. So we talked about the importance of being duty bound and performance. He mentioned something very nice. He said, performance of duties is not always a bed of roses. I like that point. I appreciated how, especially Bharat, was performing his duties in a climate of criticism and misunderstanding. Imagine if all of us are here and we are doing so many services and nobody is appreciating us and nobody is congratulating us. On the contrary, they are doubting us and criticizing us, misunderstanding. How many of us will continue our service? I don't think. At least I will not continue. So I understood how great these personalities Bharat, Lakshmana, Shatrughna were. We heard about Chitrakoot and developed a desire to go to Chitrakoot and see those pastime places where love exchanges have happened. And one should be, Prabhu said that one should be interested in duties irrespective of personalities. We heard about the sharp devotional intelligence of Hanuman. And finally, from the re-emphasized how Srila Prabhupada has actually helped us. Actually, Srila Prabhupada is the only reason why all of us are here today. And he is giving us that ointment of love free of cost. All we need to do is have faith, accept it, and try to please him by following his instructions. I think this is a very, very nice Ram Navami celebration. Thank you for helping us to. I always like the way of the lectures. There are two ways of discussing the Lord's pastimes. One is just discuss the sweet pastimes that always causes purification, of course. But unless another we derive some learning lessons, we actually are not able to apply it. So today's discussion was not only just pastime, but also lessons learned from those pastimes. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We are very, very grateful to you. We hope and we pray that we keep getting your association again and again. Just like people take a little bit Ganges and offer it back to Ganges. So we taught us to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra today. So we are offering it back to you. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra.